Good morning, children. I welcome you all to today's video class. In today's video class, you are going to learn the idea of Ferdius Genga about his visit to Cambridge. Yeah, this is the title of the prose, A Visit to Cambridge by Ferdius Genga. Actually, he was a famous writer from Mumbai. Okay, fine. It is an autobiographical account. Yeah, this lesson is nothing but an autobiographical account. In this story, the writer recalls his 30-minute meeting with the world famous scientist Stephen Hawking. Okay, this lesson gives us a glimpse of the meeting between two extraordinary people who has done many good things in their life and in their profession. Okay, you like visiting new places. Through this lesson, today I would like to take you all to the famous country, United Kingdom. You know well that the world famous universities, Cambridge and Oxford, are located there. Okay, once the writer, Ferdius Genga, pay a walking visit to London through Cambridge. What happens? Whom he come across in his walking tour. I will explain all the things one by one. As I told you already, this lesson is a brief account of the meeting between the two great persons of the world. One, the writer Ferdius Genga, and another one is the world famous scientist Stephen Hawking. A few words about Stephen Hawking. Who was he? As a scientist, you know him well. Stephen Hawking was an English theoretical physicist. He was a world famous theoretical, see the spelling, Physicist, yeah, an English theoretical physics. He is also a cosmologist. This is about Stephen Hawking. So, actually, before to understand or before to discuss the brief meeting between these two great persons, let me explain the professional life of Stephen Hawking as a scientist. Stephen Hawking was an English theoretical physicist. He was also a cosmologist and he was an author of A Brief History of Time. You know that? Yeah? Brief History of Time. Stephen Hawking, he was the author of this great book. Actually, he was the director of research at the Center for Theoretical Cosmology at the University of Cambridge. So this book brought him a good fame as well as name. Nearly more than 10 million copies are sold. So it was widely read by the scientists, by the people all over the world. And Stephen Hawking was born in a family of doctors. He got PhD in applied mathematics and theoretical physics. And Hawking was a fellow at the Royal Society. It's not so easy to become a member of the Royal Society, but he got it. But to a great disappointment, he was first affected by a neuro disease. It paralyzed him. So totally that disease paralyzed Stephen Hawking. After the loss of his speech, so totally he lost his speech capability due to that disease. Then he was able to communicate through a speech generation devices. So he was able to communicate with others through speech generation devices. And Stephen Hawking was an outstanding physicist, and a pop culture icon. He was a pop culture icon. So Stephen Hawking was a world famous physicist. He was a cosmologist. He was an author of The Brief History of Time. He was a member of the Royal Society of England. He was known for pop culture. He was a pop culture icon. He transformed our understanding of black holes. You know that it draws attention of all the scientists all over the world. But Stephen Hawking transformed our understanding of black holes by combining the two pillars of 20th century physics, general relativity and quantum mechanics. His book, A Brief History of, has been sold more than 10 million copies. Okay, so in this way, Stephen Hawking became a world famous scientist. He was living in the minds of almost all the people all over the world. Stephen Hawking has done more to advance our understanding of gravitation than anyone since Einstein. The word is very important. Okay, fine. Next, a few words about Fergus Kanga, the writer of this lesson. About the author, Kanga. He was a native of Mumbai. Kanga is a writer. He is a journalist. He is a writer. He is a journalist. And looks and works in Mumbai. Kanga was born with brittle bones that tends to break easily when he was a child. That's brittle bones. When he was a child, he born with brittle bones. It's a kind of a disease. So bones can be easily broken. So like Hawking, Stephen Hawking, Kanga moves around in a wheelchair all over the world. So the neuro diseases made these two great personalities of the world confined to only wheelchair. They cannot move anywhere. So their life became the custodian of the wheelchair. So the story is about a meeting between such two differently abled people, but both were extraordinary in their field. Okay, so this lesson deals with the meeting between such two disabled, in modern terminology, differently abled people. Okay, both were extraordinary in their field. Okay, now we can travel with some basic ideas. So let me explain the basic theme or the main frame of this lesson. So already you have learned who was Stephen Hawking, what was his professional achievement, who was he, and what were his achievements, and at the same time I gave a brief account of this writer Kanga, of this lesson, the author, what was his personal life, what was his achievements in his personal life. So now you have to recollect all these things with these basic ideas. Let me explain the lesson. The author begins his lesson by telling his idea to the readers about England. To him, to the author, England only means Cambridge. You know that the world famous university Cambridge is located in England, and for him England is nothing more than that. Whenever you speak England, whenever you utter the word England, immediately you have to think of the world famous university Cambridge. He was also in the same opinion, but the author changed his opinion and view about the meaning and relevance of England in his life after meeting the world famous scientist Stephen Hawking. Okay, when he was on the walking tour to London through Cambridge, he came across the great scientist Stephen Hawking. After meeting him, he changed his opinion. Before that, his opinion was England means to him only Cambridge. But thereafter, he changed his opinion and view about England. The author mentions about his walking tour to to England through Cambridge. So once he made a walking tour to England, walking tour to England through Cambridge, the famous university, through Cambridge. The writer, author. When he was on his tour, his guide spoke about Stephen Hawking. What he told him about the Stephen Hawking, the guide called the great scientist Stephen Hawking. He was a poor man because he was differently abled. So it intensifies the feeling of the author. So now he had suddenly flashed an idea to meet the great scientist. He also told him that Stephen now holds the position in the university which was earlier held by Sir Isaac Newton. So all these informations was conveyed to the author by his guide. Now he realized, oh, how can I forget such a great personality in the world? He had quite forgotten the most brilliant astrophysicist who lived here. Immediately what he did? Could you guess it? Yeah. His acute walking tour came to an end. Immediately he rushed to the nearby telephone booth and he called Stephen Hawking's residence because he wants to meet him. He wants to talk with Stephen Hawking. He wants to discuss with him all his achievements, though he was physically challenged. Where his assistant attended the call. When the author made the call to talk to Stephen Hawking, the call was attended by the scientist assistant. The author introduced himself as I am someone who came all along the way from India. The author wants to convey a message to Stephen Hawking. Literally, then he would understand the author traveled such a long distance all along the way from India on a wheelchair because he was differently abled person. He explained all these things to the scientist assistant. He wants all these things to be conveyed to the scientist verbatim. So he made such a challenging travel. Why he made such a challenging travel? To write about his traveling experience in Britain. The author explained that he needed to see Professor Stephen Hawking. The assistant gave time 30 minutes from 3:30 to 4 next day. So he got an appointment to meet the great scientist. The next afternoon, when the author went to see him, Stephen Hawking boldly told him, I am not so bold and brave as you think. It made the author to surprise. It surprised him. It made him to get excited. He spoke in a computer voice because he had no other options. The author actually wanted to appreciate. He wants to praise the scientist Stephen Hawking for his everlasting achievement. Despite his physical disablement, but the writer kept quiet because he felt guilty every time. Because he thought his conscience forced him to respond. See, I will show you the picture of the Stephen Hawking, how the disease made him a physically disabled person. See, such a great scientist, Stephen Hawking. See, the writer of many good things. He was an astrophysicist, the world famous astrophysicist. He was a famous scientist. He gave more explanation to the black holes. He draws the attention of all the scientists of the world towards his famous theory about black holes, relativity, quantum theory, and so many things he has achieved in his lifetime. No one can ever forget the contribution made by such a great scientist to flourish the field of physics. Okay, fine. See, this is the London city. So, the writer, the author, when he made a walking tour to London through Cambridge, he come across all these things. This is an aerial photograph. It gives a complete picture, a view of London from the space. If you look at the city, you will get this view. So it's an aerial photograph taken. So London city. Could you view it clearly, children? Wow, very nice. See, Stephen Hawking, when he wrote a theory in detail about the black holes, before his theory was brought out, it was mysterious. It was in the dream of many scientists. They don't know, they couldn't understand what was happening in the black holes, how to make it clear, how to make others to understand. But Stephen Hawking's everlasting attempt made it possible. He wrote a theory about the black holes. By doing such things, he drew the attention of world famous scientists towards his theory. Yeah. See, then I'll show you. See, this is the picture of Cambridge University, the world famous university located in London. See, this was the birthplace of many scientists. This was the birthplace of many philologists. This was the birthplace of many great personalities of the world. So such a great university which produces great personalities of the world. And it became the dwelling place, birthplace, and the place of achievement to the scientist Stephen Hawking. See, Firdaus Ganga, the author of this story, the author of this lesson, a visit to Cambridge. He too became differently abled. Okay, fine. So the author introduced himself. Now, he had a chance to speak to the great scientist Stephen Hawking. So the meeting started. He raised some questions. He put up Stephen Hawking with some questions. So he just realized. So he boldly expressed himself that I am not so bold as you think. So he had been brave. He spoke in his computer voice. No other options he had. But actually the author wanted to appreciate him, to praise him for everlasting achievement despite his physical disablement. But he didn't do, because what he thought in his mind, the author thought that his questions, his every word may force him to respond. Therefore he just stopped these things. The author expresses another question. The author expresses how most people think that people with different abilities like Ganga and Stephen Hawking are constantly sad. This was the opinion of the people. The people thought, they had an opinion in their mind that differently abled peoples are constantly sad and miserable. But immediately, when this was suggested by the author, the scientists immediately refused, blindly refused, vehemently refused and rejected that concept. No. I won't agree. A lot of people seems to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy, but it is not like that. I said, the writer says, I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? The question was put up with Stephen Hawking. He responded, I find it amusing when people patronize me. A bold answer was given by the great scientist. He plainly told, I find it amusing when people patronize me. There they sympathize as only the physical disablement of the writer and the physical disablement of the people. He raised another question. The writer, the author raised another question. Do you find it annoying when someone likes me comes and disturbs you in your work? Stephen Hawking, without thinking anything, he gave the immediate answer, yes. The answer flashed, yes. See how nice answer he has given. What was the question? Let me write the question on the board. See, the writer asked Stephen Hawking this question. Do you find it annoying? See, do you find it annoying? Annoying means giving trouble or worrying. Do you find it annoying when someone? Do you find it annoying when someone likes me? Someone likes me, come and disturb. Come and disturb you in your work. If you are asked the same question by someone else, we don't want to reveal ourselves. What we will say, not like that. We want to hide. We don't want to say the exact answer. We may feel that it may hurt. It may harm the person who raised the question. But Stephen Hawking, as a scientist, he was very outspoken. So he gave that answer, yes. Then he smiled. His one-way smile. Then he smiled, his one-way smile. Then he felt that he was looking at one of the writer, the author, felt that he was looking at the most beautiful man, one of the most beautiful men in the world. The first glimpse of him is shocking to the writer, to the author, because he is like still photograph, Having looked at him shakes you up, because if you have a glance of the great scientist for the first time, you may wonder, because your eyes have something completely unexpected. Yeah, your eyes have something completely unexpected. When you see him, it appears as if he is like a lantern. If you have a look at the great scientist, let me once again show you the photo. See the great personality, the still photo. When you see him, it appears as if he is like a lantern whose walls are so worn out, and you only see the light inside before you is the inner glow of a man. You can see the inner glow of a man. The words are more important. These words are exactly used by the author. He looks like a lantern, but the walls are damaged. Inside, what you can find? The light inside. You can find a great light inside. So, inner glow of a man. Inner glow of a man. That you can find. The very word used by the author. It makes you feel the body is irrelevant. It even makes the author a non-believer in eternal souls. Non-believer in eternal souls. Now the author asked again Stephen Hawking, what according to him the best thing about being differently abled? See, what the question, what is the best thing? What is the best thing about, what's the best thing about being differently abled? Being differently abled. Okay, what's the best thing of being differently abled? When the scientist was put up with this question, he immediately replied that he did not find anything good about it. He did not find anything good about it. So when he was asked the first question, what do you think about what people think about the differently abled people, he gave right answer for that question. When the scientist was asked the second question by the writer, by the author, about the best thing according to him, what is the best thing about differently abled? For that, what answers the scientist gave? He plainly told him, he plainly replied, he did not find anything good in it. It is not so good of being differently abled. The person who is differently abled is not going to get anything from such a status, from such things. There is so much kindness in the world. Again he explained, There is so much kindness in the world, but his voice expressed his inner feeling, his voice, that there is a disadvantage that come with it. So people may show the kindness and mercy towards the differently abled people. So the differently abled people can win the kindness and the love all over the world, from the people all over the world. But at the same time, there is a disadvantage that comes with it. The author wanted to make sure that no single minute of his meeting went wasted. Therefore, he was very careful when he had a talk with him. The author wanted to make sure that no single minute of the meeting went wasted. Okay, the author expressed how Stephen Hawking had inspired him beyond limits. He explained how you had inspired me beyond limits. It cannot be explained, it cannot be expressed. And he was sure that he must have inspired a lot others also. Openly the writer told, you inspired me a lot, not only me. You inspired millions of people, millions of minds all over the world. But the author's positive comments do not make any positive effect on Stephen Hawking. He simply accepted it, that's all. So the author asked Stephen another question. If he would like to give a piece of advice to other differently abled people, which would help make life a little easier for them? Important question. So the author asked Stephen Hawking another question. Suppose if you are asked to give an advice to differently abled people, what kind of advice do you want to give it to them, which will help them to achieve many good things in their life? That was the question. For that, what answer Stephen Hawking gave? Do you know, children? Yes, I know that you want to know. Stephen suggested that they should focus on their strength and what they are good. That's very important. So differently abled peoples, everyone has some unique personalities, no doubt. Everyone has some inborn talents. If they focus on that particular talents, they will come up in their life. So the same thing has been suggested by the great scientist. What he suggested, the differently abled people should focus on their strength. It will help them to come up. He also suggested that things like Olympics for differently abled people are a waste of time. What they are going to achieve it, because it is in no way connected with their real strength. So the author got the gist. 30 minutes time came to an end, and the author smiled and expressed that he had annoyed him enough and thanked him for his time, the author. But Stephen Hawking asked the author to stay. He offered the author some tea and a chance to show his garden. Stephen Hawking showed him every inch and corner of it. An hour passed and it was time to leave. The author did not know what to do. He could not kiss him or cry either. Thus he touched the shoulder and went out into the summer evening in his wheelchair. The author knew Stephen was waving as he looked back. The author remarked that watching him, an embodiment of my bravest self, the one I had believed in for so many years. So such a great, he was well aware that his journey was over for now in England. So when the author made a walking trip to England through Cambridge, he was well informed by his guide about the achievement and the lifestyle of the great scientist Stephen Hawking, a differently abled person. The author himself was also a differently abled person. Therefore, he decided to have a talk with him. Let me just sum it up briefly. So he got an appointment for half an hour. The next day, he had a talk with Stephen Hawking. He appreciated him for his bravery. He appreciated him for his achievements. He also appreciated him for the ideas he has given about the black holes and many mysterious things to the people all over the world, and he asked him many questions about the attitude of the differently abled people and how the world view the differently abled people, and he also asked him to give suggestion for the differently abled people so as they can come up in their life. All these questions were well answered by the great scientist Stephen Hawking. So all these answers made the writer to get excited. He never fails to appreciate, he never fails to realize the geniusness of such a great scientist Stephen Hawking. And finally they had a very good talk, and then he just had a good evening time with such a great scientist. And then when he departed, when he came out from the meeting spot, he has left his heart with the great scientist Stephen Hawking. The author remarked, watching him, an embodiment of my bravest self, the one I had believed in for so many years. He was well aware that his journey was over for now in England. So such a great meeting took place between such two great personalities of the world. From this lesson, what you can gain, what lesson you can learn, what moral you can gain. One thing is very clear, children. Everyone has got some special talents, inbuilt talents. They have to identify it and they have to nurture it. They can come up, they can do many wonders in the world. Okay? And I hope you too can find your talents and try to nurture it, try to develop such things. And I wish you all to come up such a great personalities in the world, like the great personalities what we have discussed in this lesson. Thank you, children. Till the second part begins, I would like to ask you to go through the things what we have discussed in the first part of this lesson. In the second part of this today's video, I have a plan to discuss with you the main frame and idea of the poem when I set out for blindness. Thank you, children. Yes, good morning, children. In the second part of today's video class, now I am going to explain briefly the poem when I set out for blindness. Actually, it should be pronounced blindness. This poem was done, or the poem has been written by the great writer Thomas Hardy. So as a young architect, the poet went to blindness is a place to supervise the renovation work of the church. So he was a young architect. The renovation, actually he has gone to blindness to supervise the renovation work of a church. How he set out his journey, when he started his journey, who accompanied him in his journey, how he reached the place, how long he stayed there, what he gained from his staying there, did he complete his work, when he came back. All these questions or answers, you can find answer for all these questions in this poem. Okay, so this poem gives you a brief description about the poet's visit of the place Lyoness, why he visited that place, why he went there, because to supervise the renovation work of the church. For that he went there. Actually, the place was 100 miles away. It was the winter season. You know that to travel for 100 miles is a long distance. 100 miles is a long distance. It will take a long time to reach the place. You have to travel all along the place. And more than that, the season is it's a winter season. It was very cold, chill to go out. The leaves were also covered with snow. He was alone and shaky. His only companion was the starlight. So the poet was a young architect. So he set out for Linus. He wants to go there to supervise the renovation work of church. Okay, for that purpose only. Actually, what is this place, Linus? It is a mythical birthplace of Sri Tristram in England. It is believed to have been submerged by the sea. In the poem, it is used as an imaginary place. I will write it on the board, children, then you can understand it well. This place, actually, this place, Linus, is an imaginary place. It is an imaginary place. It is a mythical birthplace. Mythical birthplace of whom? Birthplace of Sri Tristram. Birthplace of Sri Tristram. You can pronounce it in such a way. Tristram. Actually, long time back, it was in England. It is believed to have been submerged by the sea, this place. In the poem, it is used as an imaginary place. This Linus is an imaginary place. The poet once visited a parish to supervise the restoration of a church. Renovation work, the restoration of church. For that purpose only, the poet visited the parish. The poem is suggestive of the spiritual benefit of visiting some places. People used to go for pilgrimage, and they can go for they would like to visit the place of worships. Why? Because spiritually they can get some benefit by visiting such places. So the poem is suggestive of the spiritual benefit of visiting some places. If you go and if you be there for some time, you can get spiritual benefit. You feel renovated yourself. You get energized. So many things are there behind such pilgrimages and visiting such good places. So this young artist, he was an artist as well as a young novice architect. So his work takes him to Paris. The church is being restored. So the poet is the one who has to supervise. This procedure. The poem tells us about his experience how he goes through during his process. That's important. See, so when he has made such a good attempt to visit that places, so the poem deals with such things, and he was unsure what situation he would have to face there during his stay in Linus. So first stanza deals with his plan for visiting that place. As an young architect, the place was, as I told you, nearly 100 miles away. It was winter season. It was so cold out. The leaves were covered with snow. He was all alone and shaking. Only his companion was the starlight. And that second stanza, he was very unsure what situation he would have to face. There during his stay in Linus. What situation he is going to face? He was not sure about it. So could dare make a forecast. No one can. No seer could make. That means that no seer could make such a pre-plan or such a forecast. No one can say precisely what will happen if we stay there. Even the wisest, the poet says, even the wisest magician could not make guess about future. So before setting out for Linus, the poet started to imagine what would happen when he would stay there or during his stay there in Linus. No seer would dare make such a forecast. Even the wisest magician could not make guess about the future. But when he returned from that place, he was very happy. His eyes shone with joy. Everybody tried silently to guess that reason of the deep and uncommon happiness. That's important. So, visiting such a good places is very important to get salvation for many good things. So he writes this poem to celebrate his successful attempt. He may fail to do the needful, that is the fear, the success that he has achieved at the end. So, and more than that, I would like to say some important words meaning. The place, as I told you, it's a sacred city. A crumbled sacred. The poet says that even a prophet or a wisest wizard would fail to predict that experience accurately and vividly. Okay, so the poet's choice to use this setting refers to an actual place that imparts an air of magic and mysticism. And then everyone noticed the magic in his eyes when he came back, but no one was very sure about what will happen during his stay there. And the reliance all over him. They made guesses as to what had happened to him in Lyonnais or what he saw there. But they didn't speak because they became so mute, even a word. So it was a place, it was a country before singing beneath the sea. Mythical lost means land supposed once to have connected Cornwall in the west of England once with the Sicily lying in the English Channel. So there are inner changes which he is not expecting at all. The inner changes after visiting that place, he had got such inner changes. The poet is not prepared for all this. He feels that he cannot guess even for the slightest minute that he will be experiencing all these things. So he set out his journey. He was all alone. It was a winter season. Heavy snow falling is there. So only his companion was Starlight. He went there and he stayed there for some times. Even he couldn't realize what will happen during his stay there. Even the wisest person or even the magicians cannot predict what will happen there. So after he staying there for some times, he came back. When he came back, he became so bright. He became so intelligent. So he realized changes in his spiritual attitude. The poet was apprehensive about his stay in Lyonnais. He was worried about the outcome, as nobody could predict the occurrence and the happenings of his stay. But after his arrival, everyone noticed the magic in his eyes and the radiance all over him. They made guess as to what had happened to him in Lyonnais or what he saw that. But they couldn't express it. They became so mute because it was a mythical lost land. And moreover, he even says that not even a prophet or wizard could have predicted that changes. When he returns from his work or trip, he feels changed. There is a new glow now in his eyes, which everyone else can notice as well. This is a surprising part, because while the poet can feel the changes with everyone, can see them too. That's very important. So this is a surprising part, because while the poet can feel the changes, within everyone can see them too. So what is the concluding remark? The poem is very insightful piece of work that it tells us how things happen to us when we least expect them, and that no matter what we plan, there is another plan for us by God which no one can predict. That's a message we can get from this poem. So actually this poem by Thomas Hardy
This poem revolves around his visit to a particular place. As a poet is a trainee architect, he just went there to supervise the restoration of a church. Little does he know that he is in for a life-changing experience. So, thank you children for your kind and patient listening. I hope you understand the main theme of this poem. The poem by Thomas Hardy, when he was a novice, when he was a small novice architect, young architect. He had a great task to visit the place to find out the restoration of the church. Therefore, he went there. What happened? So, to supervise the renovation work of the church. Actually, the place was long, so it was long away from his residence. Nearly it was 100 miles away. And the season was very cold. It was winter season. The leaves were covered with snow. He was alone and shaky. His only companion was the starlight. He was unsure that what situation he would have to face there during his stay in Linus. No sea could dare make a forecast. Even the wisest magicians could not make guess about future. But when he returned from that place, he was so happy. He found himself a change in his attitude, spiritual attitude. His eyes shone with joy. Everybody tried silently to guess the reason of the deep and uncommon happiness. So from this poem, what message you can gain? So every visiting, the poet says, even and another important point, the poet says, a crumbled piece of paper sticking out of his coat pocket, a crumbled piece of paper. A crumbled piece of paper was sticking out of his coat pocket of this poet Thomas Hardy. Crumpled piece of paper. A crumpled piece of paper sticking out of his coat pocket. The paper, it is recorded in one of his biographies. This paper is recorded in one of his biographies. What does it contain? It contains the draft of the poem. That is the poem what you are learning now. When I set out for Linus, this poem was inspired by a visit to a place where the poet calls Linus. Linus is a mythical place actually, referred to in the legend of King Arthur. The poet choice to use this setting refers to an actual place that imports an air of magic and mysticism. Okay, and more than that, the moral that exists or the moral conveyed by this poem is, everyone noticed the magic in is there are some places. So visiting of such places will give us a good hope in our future. So that is a very important things, that is very important message we can gain from this poem. So people will visit often some places, especially the historical places as well as the religious places, as well as see. So thank you children for this. Whenever time permits you, you too can go and visit historical places and place of worships, so you can get peaceful of mind, you can get peace, you can feel that peace in your mind, and that is the poem wants to say. So the poet also, after visiting such a nice place, could get such a peacefulness. So in his mind, that's very important. So according to this poem, we never fail to visit such things. Maybe it is an imaginary, maybe it is a real thing, but it is good thing to happen. Thank you children. Have a nice day.